everyone, dust off your top hats and tails, because round the corner is Royal Ascot. 5 days of superb racing and 8, yes 8, QIPCO British Champions Series races. So here's the lineup for Royal Ascot, and here are the races that you can look forward to over the course of the 5 days. We kick things off with the Queen Anne Stakes. We've got the King's Stand Stakes over the flying 5 furlongs. St James's Palace for 3-year-old milers. The Prince of Wales, what a race that promises to be. The Blue Ribbon event, the Gold Cup, Order of St George, a warm favourite in that. The Commonwealth Cup, one of the newest races added to the programme. We've got the Coronation Stakes, and we round things off with the Diamond Jubilee Stakes once again for the sprinters. We will look ahead to all of those races throughout the course of this programme. Plus, we'll be hearing from some of the leading connections. We'll hear from the likes of Henry Candy regarding his horse, Limato. We'll also hear from Mark Johnston on his horse, Lumiere. And we hear from Clive Cox on Profitable.
It's special. It's extremely special. It's one of them meetings there. If you do have a winner, you get about 50 texts, so you know that it is special because everyone else is telling you it's special and well done. You know, I think it's a sort of meeting there. Everybody's delighted to have a winner there, whether you're Aidan O'Brien or whether you're a fellow with 6 or 7 horses. It is a special meeting. It's the Olympics. And, you know, I mean, we've been down there with plenty of runners over the years and gone back with our tail between our legs, so we know how to enjoy it if we do get one. So if I could get one, it'd be fantastic. So we'll see what happens.
You know, a Royal Ascot winner is always special, but yeah, it would be great. We did one each of the last 2 years now, Maria last year and Louis the Pious the year before, so if we could do one this year, we'd be absolutely delighted. Yeah.
It would mean an awful lot at the time, but I don't wake up every morning worrying about it or thinking about it. But on the day, if and when we do it, yeah, it'll be a great satisfaction more than anything. You know, I think you're judged on your big race winners, and it'd be a great name to have on the CV. You know, a Royal Ascot winner.
It's the Olympics, isn't it? You know, it's so competitive, and once you've got your horses there on the day and you've got them there in good shape, and the horses we take there, you know, I prefer not to have a runner than not to have a horse with a chance. But it's a fantastic feeling, great occasion, and you know, we've been lucky enough to be in the winners' enclosure a few times there.
Yeah, it's so tough. I've been criticised many times for taking so many horses there and shooting, you know, so many darts at the board, because it is hard on them. You know, it's a hard meeting to get over, and they've obviously got to give 100% at it. But it's the world shop window of racing. You know, to me, there is no meeting like it in the world. In fact, I'm sure to everybody, there is no race meeting like it in the world. So we've got to be there, and just as you say, to get one winner on the board it's a tremendous relief to know that you're not going to have another blank year.
Now, as ever, I am joined by Chris Dixon, who joins me. Chris, good to see you. What are 5 days we've got in store next week?
Yeah, brilliant 5 days in store. Really look forward to the Royal Ascot meeting every year. It comes quick on the back of the Derby, and what a great couple of classics we had there. Minding, brilliant to manage to get her head in front in the Oaks, bearing in mind the trouble that she meant, and Harzan so tough in the Derby. When you sort of reflect on Epsom and what we saw in terms of the classics there, you had 2 horses that had to overcome trouble. Minding in terms of the trouble in the run, found trouble, Rymore switched out, and it looked so unlikely that she was going to win at various points. And then in the morning of the race with Harzan, his foot was on ice all day. Yeah. It's quite remarkable what the filly and colt have had to overcome to become classic winners. Definitely. As you say, Minding was completely stopped in the run. Watching that race, I just felt she had absolutely no chance with 3 to run, but she managed to pull it off. She's clearly extremely talented, a really, really high-class filly. And as you said, Harzan, his participation in doubt right down until the final minutes, really, with that problem that he had pre-race, but clearly a very tough as well as talented horse. Excellent stuff. It really was a great weekend at Epsom, but the show rolls on to Royal Ascot. Let's get into our preview of the 5 days of racing, and what better way to start than with the first race of the meeting, the Queen Anne.
He's a very, very intelligent horse. He knows exactly what he likes at all stages. Quite a battle most mornings getting the tack on him, and when I'm trying to saddle him at the racecourse, he's an absolute nightmare. Dangerous at both ends, and he's got the most incredible cow kick. You can take your knuckles off when you're doing up the surcingle underneath. But basically he's an absolutely charming animal with a tremendous sense of humour, but he has very strong likes and dislikes.
He's always impressed us, as we've made no secret of his ability at home. You know, at the end of the year, I think we'd probably just gone over his best a little bit, and he was a bit keen in the QE2. But still, for me, even after pulling quite hard early, he was only beaten 3 lengths by Solo. So he clearly needed that run in the lock hinge, and I'm pleased the way he's been since. So I hope we can, you know, go to Ascot with a live chance, really.
In France, she sat sort of handyish, and in the Falmouth she started off her race near the back and, you know, made a move mid-race, so she's reasonably versatile, but she just likes a little bit of cover early doors. First time now for me taking on the Coles, so you know, she'll have to, you know, bring her A game really, but we think she deserves her shot against them. She's always been very straightforward, you know, and she seems to be working as well as ever. You know, we're really happy with her at the moment.
So the Queen Anne will kick things off, and as you heard, there are a couple of connections hopeful of big runs from their horses. There's an international feel to the Queen Anne. We've got Tepin coming over from America, and we've got this horse, Avedja, already a Royal Ascot winner, coming over from France, and clearly there's lots of international interest in this race.
Yeah, this is Avedja winning the Coronation Stakes at Royal Ascot last year. Again, the better of Found, who you can see here. Found obviously went on to boost that form at the highest level, getting the better of last year's Derby winner out in the Breeders' Cup. So I think that Avedja did fairly well to win this race on this occasion. This was on the round course. I think that given Avedja's style of racing, it might be that the straight track plays to her strengths a little bit more, because she is held up. Yeah, the straight track at Ascot is a hold-up horse's track really, rather than a front-runner's track, and I think that might just help her a little bit. I think she came from a pretty poor position to win last year.
And what's interesting with regards to the American horse, 2 turns in America that the Tepin has had to face, also as well runs on with nasal strips over her nose, and also on Lasix in America, which she doesn't have a Royal Ascot. It's an altogether different test for Tepin, the mare. Bilardo's a horse who will have a different test as well if the ground doesn't come up soft, because clearly his form is best when there's cut underfoot. So there's questions to answer about a few horses taking on Avedja.
Yeah, Tepin, as you say, the big question is how will that horse act on a stiff track and a straight track rather than going around the bends. Would probably have been better suited to the round track. As for Bilardo, best run last year came at Ascot, but again with a little bit of ease in the ground, so that is a little bit of a doubt about that one. I like Avedja.
I agree with you. I think Avedja's the one to beat in the Queen Anne. That will kick off the meeting. Next up, we're going to take a look at the sprinters. Will it be a profitable Royal Ascot for Clive Cox?
You know, he's really come forwards this year. I thought he might need his first run in the Palace House. That race has a wonderful record for progressive horses through the sprinting ranks, and you know, I was a little bit concerned the ground was too easy for him in the Temple. So both those starts, I'm longing to see him back at Ascot over 5, and you know, please God we can keep him in the same nick between now and then.
He travels very well. He likes to be held up, and he seems to have a great ability to travel in these sprints. And yeah, he has improved since we dropped him back to 5 furlongs. He seems to have got better.
So the sprint division has always been a very open one in Europe and in this country specifically. Perhaps in Profitable we've got a horse that can stand out from the crowd?
Yeah, quite possibly. We can take a look at Profitable, a horse who is definitely progressing, and we can see how progressive he is, evidenced here by the Temple Stakes on his most recent start. There's Profitable. We've got Mecca's Angel here as well, and we've got Wadi. And Wadi's the horse to keep an eye on to highlight Profitable's progress, I think, because he's twice now been behind Profitable this season, but the distance between the two has widened. I take the view that Wadi's probably proving fairly solid and consistent, and Profitable is progressing all the time. Gotta love the way that he moves through the race here, Ollie. It's really comfortable and smooth the way that he travels through the contest. He does lean left a little bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, what happens late on, because he shifts into Mecca's Angel and drifts over to the far side. Is that a concern?
I don't think it's too much of a worry. I think what you can say is these two horses are both going the right way. They've pulled clear of the rest. Profitable had a run under his belt, that win at Newmarket on his seasonal return. Mecca's Angel didn't, and was arriving there first start of the season. I think that she will take a step forward, and she remains the one to beat on last year's form in the Nunthorpe.
However, just very quickly on her, is it imperative that she gets soft ground, or the word soft in the going description?
I think good ground is fine. anything quicker, you might get a situation like last year that she isn't allowed to take a chance. But in the build-up to the meeting, there is a chance of some rain, I think.
Perfect. Right, let's move on to the Diamond Jubilee, the 6 furlong Group 1 sprint later on in the week. And Magical Memory. Magical Memory's here. We'll play that. This is a horse that's come out of handicap company and really elevated himself as a proper Group 1 sprinter.
Yeah, he has. This is the Duke of York at York's Dante meeting, and he's got previous group winners in behind him on
Twilight
this occasion. Yeah, Twilight Sun's down the field. Twilight Sun actually runs pretty well. First start of the season for a yard that have generally been needing the run. He stays on a little bit. He was carrying £5 extra here, Ollie, which won't be the case at the Royal meeting, so keep an eye on him. Group winners here in Suedos is a group winner in France. Danzino is a Group 3 winner. Eastern Impact is a Group 3 winner. So that's pretty solid form. Magical Memory, who was a handicap winner last year, typical of the sprint division in this season, you can make that progress, and that is exactly what he's done. One of his main rivals for the race has also made that same progress. The Tin Man was a maiden at Royal Ascot last year. He hadn't yet won a race. Now he is a proven performer at the top level, having finished 4th in the Champions Day sprint last year, and he started his season with a really impressive win, didn't he, at Windsor?
Yeah, for what it's worth, I think Twilight Sun is a horse to very much keep an eye on at Royal Ascot. So that's the sprinters dealt with. It could be a good week for Clive Cox with Profitable. It could very much be a good week for Charlie Hills with Magical Memory, who of course had a great Royal Ascot last year with his champion sprinter Muhara. So let's move on from the sprint division and focus on the 3-year-old milers, and this time the focus is on the St James's Palace. Let's hear from a few leading connections with regards to that race now.
His run in France, as I say, was a messy race to hacked up. I mean, I'd have run faster, and I can't run very fast for the first 2 furlongs. But his run in the Guineas, he relaxed and did everything right. It's not an issue for me. But physically, I think is the key with this horse. He's getting better and stronger the whole time, and I think in another 3 or 4 months you'll even see a better horse. So how much he progresses through the year, we'll find out with racing. But look, everything's gone well since the Guineas, and we're delighted with it.
Obviously, this is probably one of the hottest races I've seen in a long time, and you know, with Guineas winners and alike, it's going to be a big step up again. But I'm confident that he's the track should suit, and mentally as well as physically, he's matured into a wonderful horse.
I guess the obvious starting point with regards to the St James's Palace is Galileo Gold to a point in terms of the British form on offer, and right at the start of the season, a QIPCO British Champions Series race, the QIPCO 2000 Guineas Galileo Gold gave trainer Hugo Palmer a first British Classic success in pretty emphatic fashion, Chris.
Really emphatic fashion. The form of this can be knocked a little bit, Ollie. There are a few horses in behind that haven't necessarily backed up the form since, but what you can't argue with is the time that the clock stopped at when he crossed the line, and that suggests that he was a bang up to scratch Guineas winner, and he's won it pretty well. And just because some of those have been beaten since doesn't mean that it's not a good performance from Galileo Gold. He's obviously been beaten since over in Ireland, but that was on soft ground, and that suited the Irish Guineas winner perhaps better. Ortard, who is really progressing, clearly a classic performer, but he was already proven on that ground, and Galileo Gold a little bit less so. But I've not really got a massive concern about Ortard going onto a faster surface looking at his pedigree.
Yeah, what about the Gurkha, who clearly is a very talented horse coming over from Ireland?
Well, he was really, really impressive in the French Guineas, wasn't he? He got the better of First Selection. First Selection was actually beaten further by Galileo Gold in the English Guineas, but wouldn't necessarily use that as a straightforward form line. The form of the French Guineas was given a couple of boosts in a sense, in that the horses that finished in third and fifth were then second and third in the French Derby the other day, so that has backed up to a degree. I was really impressed with the Gurkha, and he'd be the one that I think I had top of the shortlist for the St James's Palace.
Again, we agree. What's going on? This doesn't normally happen. It's a bit worrying when it does. So that's the St James's Palace. Let's turn our attention to one of the races of the week, the Prince of Wales Stakes, and once again a real international interest on this race. Let's hear from some of the connections with regards to the Prince of Wales Stakes.
We ran in a very hot race in France. I don't think he managed to find a rhythm throughout the race, really. He was drawn well, but couldn't really hold a posse early, and then it was a bit of a stop-start from our point of view. That said, the Japanese winner was unbelievable, really. So, you know, he's come back, he's in good form with himself, and, you know, this will be another tough race. but I'm very happy that he's in good form.
His work is as good as ever, and his enthusiasm for it is the same as ever, you know, and he loves his work, and he's, as I say, he loves going racing, and he's a very easy horse to deal with.
It's the first time she's going to take on colts, or certainly since she won her maiden at least, and there'll be no hiding places. But you know, she can be very competitive. Obviously, we dreamed that she'd win, but if she can be very competitive in the Prince of Wales, it means that we don't have to restrict her to fillies races. I mean, she's very ground dependent. She needs fast ground, and we learnt that last year. But it means that the Eclipse, the International, the Irish Champion, maybe the Arc, it means that when we get to the Breeders' Cup, which is very definitely where we want to go, we'll have the choice of the Fillies and Mares turf or the Breeders' Cup turf. You know, if she can compete with the boys, it does open up her options.
One of the races of the week, undoubtedly, the Prince of Wales Stakes. Let's take a look at Time Test in action. He was arguably one of the most impressive winners at Royal Ascot last year. Gave Frankie Dettori, this horse, his 50th Royal Ascot winner. This is a horse that is clearly on an upward curve. He's such a good horse, this horse.
Yeah, good knowledge. Frankie's 50th winner, and he was really impressive, wasn't he? Really impressive. I think he's quite impressive here as well. I think the thing with Time Test, Ollie, I don't know if you agree, but we've been agreeing on a little bit too much already today. You can pick holes a little bit in the horses that he's beaten. I think he's yet to beat a really good horse, isn't he? But I like the way that he goes about it and the way that he gets his winning done. And on a front-runner's track, yes, the run of the race might have been ideal for him and things, but it's still not easy to come from the back of the field at Sandown, whatever happens.
What I would say about that, just to sort of counter that, is that any time he's had an opportunity to put his sort of name in the hat against proper horses, things have gone against him.
Yep.
Whereas Royal Ascot in June on quick ground at that track, that's ideal for him, and it'll be the first opportunity he gets against proper Group 1, the best in the world, to prove himself, and I think he's up to it, to be honest.
Yeah, so do I, so we're going to agree on that. And I suppose Ashin Hakari, his main danger on the form book after that really impressive win in France. I don't know much about his previous form, and he looked exceptional in France.
Yeah,
but
freak horse or freak performance? How do we say it?
Yeah, it's tough to know, isn't it? What we do know is that the conditions that he had in France were very different, you would imagine, to what we're going to have at the Royal meeting. So I'm going to go with you, and I'm favouring Time Test here.
Love it. Right, let's move on to the Gold Cup. Mizu is one of the horses at a bigger price. The favourite is very much Order of St George, and clearly Coolman might have another winner in this race.
Definitely. I should have left you hanging there. Let's have a look at the Cigaro. This is one of the key performances with this race in mind. I'll tell you what.
See if we can get it going. Right, there we go. We're up and running. Mizu will hope to be up and running in the Gold Cup at Ascot. Clearly, if he brings this form into the race, he's got a chance. He has.
Worth keeping an eye on Flying Officer. We're talking about Twilight Sun earlier on, having to give the weight away to horses. He was exactly the same here. What I would say is he had the run of the race out in front on this day. Mizu not seen to best effect in the Ascot Gold Cup last year. Hopefully he is this time around. I do think that a longer straight ideally suits him, which sounds a little bit mad considering that his two best efforts have been at Ascot in the Cigaro. Hopefully he can build on it a little bit more than he did last year. And the form has been boosted by the horse in behind him, Clever Cookie, who he just gets the better of. He went on to win at York, of course. I thought it was really interesting to put the cheek pieces on him at York, because maybe he was just out-battled there by Mizu, and with the headgear now on, he might well be able to get a little bit closer. I think it looks a wide-open Ascot Gold Cup this year, and there are other horses that you can probably throw into the mix outside of that form line.
See, that's interesting, because the market will say that Order of St George is quite clearly the best, and I imagine there's going to be a real weight of support behind him. It's a fascinating contest this year, and lots of connections will go into the Gold Cup with hopes that their horse can land the big prize at Royal Ascot. New race on the programme, a relatively new race on the programme, started last year, is the Commonwealth Cup. It's a race for 3-year-old sprinters, as I say. It's the most recent addition to the Royal Ascot programme, and I think it's fair to say it's been a real success. Let's hear from some of the connections in that race now.
It's early days with her in some ways, in that she's only had 4 races in her life, so it's early days to be sort of pigeonholing her and saying what she has to do. But it's usually horses much further on in their career that you're scratching your head over trip and so on. But we always do say, when you've got serious doubts, go back to what you know you can do. And what we know we can do is 6 furlongs on fast ground. So we're going back to that to see whether the horse is really on song or not.
She's quite a tough, uncomplicated filly, and I wouldn't want to get in a barging match. You never do with sprinters because they can't recover in time. But she's got tactical speed. You can put her where she wants. If he needs to go forward a bit sooner, that's not a problem. We know we can get out of trouble. We've got the toe to get out of trouble, and we stay the trip well. So I'm not unduly worried by it.
So the Commonwealth Cup, Chris, how do you see this one going? Before you answer that, just quickly, this will be one of the stories of the week. If Dougie Costello, an ex-jump jockey over obstacles, could win at Royal Ascot 14 months or so after switching from the National Hunt game to the flat game, I mean, what a story that would be. What a remarkable switch of careers that would be.
And this was a great performance, wasn't it? This is a Sandy Lane at Haydock a few weeks back. Gifted Master, who'd been really impressive at Ascot the time before, was sent off favourite for this, but couldn't live with Quiet Reflection, who again, the style of racing that Quiet Reflection has might just be suited to Ascot better than anything. Gifted Master will blast off in front, I'm sure, and try and get them all on the stretch. That's the way that he goes. He tries to grind them into the ground, doesn't he? But it's not easy always to do at Ascot, even though he has been there and done it.
I love the turn of foot. I mean, these are good horses that Quiet Reflection has beaten, and she's beaten them in really good fashion. I think it's a really exciting horse. Anything else in the race you want to mention?
I think there's a few contenders. We should mention, you said that good turn of foot from good horses. Gifted Master, we've already talked about. Don Juan Triumphant, who finished in second, was a previous group winner, and he'll be in the field as well in the Commonwealth Cup, you'd imagine. You shouldn't strike a line through him. I suppose the more obvious ones, Buratino, who hasn't won since taking the Coventry last year, but he was impressive at Ascot last season, and Lumiere, who's back sprinting. She looked a really good prospect, didn't she? It didn't happen in the Guineas for whatever reason, but I think you can strike a line through that, and hopefully she gets back on track.
Thanks, Chris. Excellent stuff there, so good luck to those with runners in the Commonwealth Cup. Final race that we're going to focus on is the Coronation Stakes.
Went to Lingfield, didn't handle the track, ran off the bend into the straight, probably lost 3-4 lengths, so her chance is gone. And then she got organised up the straight and just flew home and won a length going away. So it was a great performance. Looking forward to running her over a mile, I think, and back on grass. And she's trained very well from her Lingfield run, and we're very happy with her going into it.
We ran in the Musadora, which was with the sort of plan A still in our mind a little bit. And it was a respectable run there. If you take the winner out, everybody had been delighted with her, and she might have gone to the Oaks. But we had to consider after that, what is this horse's best form? And we have to say the Guineas is her best form to date. So she'll go to the Coronation, give her a chance to prove herself again at the highest level over a mile. If it doesn't work out, there's time to consider stepping up and trip later in the year.
So let's take a look at some of the leading fancies in this race. And Chris, I think it's fair to say we should start with Ballydor, because she's a big player here. Yeah, only just narrowly denied. Photo finish, she was beaten in at Royal Ascot last year in the Chesham. I think she can get a Royal Ascot win on the board this time around. This is her at the start of this season in the Guineas. She finishes second to Minding. Bearing in mind, yes, Minding's been beaten in an Irish Guineas since, but she's won an Oaks as well. So I think you can say that she is really high class, and the only horse since that Chesham defeat that has beaten Ballydoyle is Minding. If Minding isn't in the field, Ballydoyle tends to win. I think that might be what pans out here. Would you be concerned that she's had a slightly hindered preparation this year? I don't think that they'd be sending her there as their leading contender if they didn't think that she was right and had a very good chance. Okay. So happy enough to trust Top Connections. I agree with you. The reason I asked that might be talked about in the press going into the week. Nemorali is also a very good horse who's had this race in mind and missed some of the opportunities to take on the likes of Minding and Ballydoyle in the past, because Royal Ascot has been her target from day one. You like Ballydoyle in that race, don't you? I do like Ballydoyle. I can see Nemorali, very impressive, but she does need to step up on that York performance, I suppose, in what is going to be a deeper race. Jet Setting would only really come into the mix if the ground was testing, I think, and the other horse to mention is probably Nathra, but on that piece of form that we've just seen is held by Ballydoyle. Right, so give us your selections for the week. A couple of horses that we should look out for. What are you keen on next week?
Yeah, there's a few different ones that I like. The sprints I'll probably decide near the time. At this point, I'm quite sweet on Ballydoyle, but for me, main fancy of the week is Usherette. I was really impressed with her at Newmarket, and I think she will run really well in the Duke of Cambridge.
Chris, great to see you as always. Thank you for your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed that look ahead to Royal Ascot, and what a week we have in store. 8 QIPCO British Champions Series races, and quality from start to finish. We hope to see you there. We will be back to look ahead to Goodwood in July, so join us then. But as I say, we'll be racing in Ascot. We can't wait. We hope to see you there too. From all of us, take care and good luck.